Hello everybody, welcome back and thank you for joining me. Ever since Harry and Meghan Sussex, Mountbatten Windsor, Dumbarton Macready announced that they will no longer operate their charity under Archewell Foundation, but will indeed become Archewell Philanthropies to involve their children more in their charitable endeavours, I knew it was utter tripe, rubbish and bullshit. Who in their right mind would change the name of their endeavour to include a 4- and 6-year-old? It did not make sense because it does not make sense. And that is a fact. At first it was announced that they will be the sponsors of Archewell Philanthropies, but then they went ahead and let half, if not more, of their staff go. This raised questions. How would two people who do not know what a hard day of work looks like manage a multi-million-dollar home and estate, be hands-on with the charities they support, travel extensively, and work to bring in money and handle the administration of a so-called global charity? Of course they can't, and of course they wouldn't. They do not have the knowledge or the expertise to do so. Soon it leaked that they indeed acquired a third-party sponsor. What they neglected to include in their narrative was who this third-party sponsor is. In 2021, an amount of $10 million was paid to Archewell Foundation from an unknown donor via Silicon Valley Community Foundation, or henceforth SVCF. And again, not yet in public records, in January 2026, $2 million was paid to Archewell Philanthropies via SVCF. Because of the $10 million in 2021 paid via SVCF, it was assumed that they had acquired the professional services of SVCF to be the fiscal sponsor and to take the administration of the philanthropic endeavour off their hands. If that was the case, however, why keep it secret? Why lie about it? Archewell would not have been the first to outsource administrative parts of their business or charity to a professional company. However, even with a minute amount of knowledge about the law and tax law, one thing becomes abundantly clear and immediately should jump out at you. Moving to a third-party fiscal sponsorship model, their financial trail, so to speak, becomes much harder, if not impossible, to follow. The current fiscal sponsorship model has far too many loopholes for nefarious donors and other entities to slip through, and not only can we suspect that these entities could be buying loyalty, but it is also a brilliant breeding ground for money laundering. Under the current laws, if a high-profile entity like Archewell moves to a fiscal sponsor, which then becomes like a sort of parent 501c3, they stop filing their own public Form 990. Their finances now become part and parcel of the so-called parent organization's annual report, sometimes even merely appearing as a single anonymous item among hundreds of other projects. What is happening now is that the United States government suddenly recognizes that if a 501c3 acts as a channel for money to pass through without actually knowing or disclosing who is running the project, they are indeed creating a massive opportunity for money laundering, foreign interference, and various other kinds of nefarious and even dangerous actions. Looking at the scenario through this lens, instead of purely an entity offloading the headache of public disclosure, for instance, public filings and other administrative duties, it becomes clear that there can be much to worry about, which could possibly extend far beyond only rotten financial dealings. It is indeed possible that the current model of fiscal sponsorship can even endanger the nation and the entire country by fiscal sponsors accepting anonymous donations on behalf of a project, which is indeed what Archewell will be labelled as for the parent 501c3. The public has no way of knowing whether the donations are coming from legitimate donors or foreign governments or entities with conflicting interests and goals. Now, seeing that we are using Archewell as our example today, need you be reminded that while in Jordan, Harry and Meghan Mountbatten-Windsor visited Guest Scope, an NGO operating a youth centre in a refugee camp. Very noble, except that the charity has clear links to pro-Hamas content on social media, and staff members also post pro-Hamas content. Could it be possible for a group like Hamas to use an entity like Archewell Philanthropies and its fiscal sponsor to launder money and get a foothold in the United States? Well, absolutely. Now, understand this. There is no accusation here, no saying Hamas is using Archewell, merely proving to you that it is possible. Also note that Charity Watch's critique of Archewell was indeed biting. They made it very clear that despite Archewell's tax filings claiming they do undergo independent audits, they had repeatedly ignored requests to produce them. Archewell's 2024-2025 impact report was all about soft metrics. For example, 85% of participants found meaning in life. The kind of statement which would have you spit out your coffee, I'm sure. The latest Form 990 also showed that 47% of their spending was categorized under other fees for services. Now that is usually a euphemism for consultants, legal fees, or PR, and not actually charity work. Now, completely aside from this professional body of work which I'm presenting here, there is indeed a possibility that, say, Harry paid his legal fees from Archewell Foundation. There's no way for us to know. Fortunately, there had been an awakening of sorts. On the 23rd of April 2026, the United States Department of Treasury and the IRS announced a major Form 990 transparency initiative And while there's no outright ban on fiscal sponsorships yet, the new direction this is taking signals a massive shift in how they will be managed and policed. The IRS will revise Form 990 to require much more detailed reporting on, number one, fiscal sponsorship arrangements. For the first time, the IRS wants specific documentation on how, why, and from where these parent non-profits move money to their projects, which would include the likes of Archewell. Number two, government grants and contracts. The IRS will also want increased disclosure on how public funds are being utilized and whether it is being diverted to advocacy or political activity. Now, please note, a Section 501c3 organization may not make a contribution to a political organization described in Section 527, such as a candidate committee, political party committee, or political action committee. And number three, foreign influence. In future, the 501c3 will have to identify the origin, destination, and use of funds to prevent foreign entities from using U.S. non-profits as conduits for domestic influence. Looking specifically at Archewell Philanthropies, there are three major red flags. The fact that Archewell failed to provide the independent audits they claimed existed, the fact that they offloaded or transferred some of their initiatives, like Parents Network, to other non-profits like Parents Together, and lastly, their current secret sponsor strategy. Because of their inability to provide their audited financials, already caused Charity Watch to give them a dubious or questionable rating. The fact that Archewell is attempting to keep their fiscal sponsor a secret points to one of two things. The sponsor is controversial, and Harry and Meghan do not want the sponsor's other projects linked to theirs. Or, number two, their goal is total anonymity. They want to break the paper trail completely so that journalists can no longer report on their, say, declining income or their high overhead cost or whatever it is they wish to hide from the public. Maybe Meghan is buying her very expensive designer outfits from or via Archewell Philanthropies. We don't know. Whatever their reasons are, it is clear that we are moving into the mechanics of dark money, and exactly why Chairman Jason Smith of the House Ways and Means Committee showed his support for the new revisions, stating that tax-exempt status is a privilege and not a right. For me, this is a "I told you so" moment, because going back on previous videos on YouTube and writings everywhere, including Substack, you will note that I attempted to wave the flag and blow the whistle so hard. But it is true that no one is as deaf as those who do not want to hear. When the proposed new regulations are published for public comment in the next few weeks, the secret Harry and Meghan tried to keep will become a liability for them. And if the laws and proposals are indeed passed and the fiscal sponsor still would not disclose Archewell's financials, the sponsor itself may lose its own tax-exempt status. This move by the IRS and the US Department of Treasury is indeed long overdue. There's no fairness in taxing your citizens into the poorhouse, yet giving the rich and the famous loopholes galore to not only be exempt of taxes, but also to work against the government of the day. It is indeed not a democratic way to run a country. Thank you for listening, and you are welcome to leave your comments. Just please keep it respectful. Thank you. Bye.